Wukusu, peace, black power, and welcome to Harlem Liberation School's YouTube channel. Harlem Liberation School is a black nationalist, pan-African community organization based in Harlem. We provide relevant and credible political education to help black people wake up, clean up, and stand up, in the words of Brother Malcolm X. To do this, we provide panel discussions, political commentary, mini documentaries, leadership tips, classes, and interviews with some of our most dedicated and effective leaders, activists, and intellectuals around the world. Peace and black power to the family. This is Brother Agyei Tyehimba from Harlem Liberation School, where we teach our people to wake up, clean up, and stand up. Any one of those components missing is not complete. Waking up is great that you know a lot. Can quote all our leaders, but it's inadequate. Self-correction is of great importance, but if you don't have consciousness, maybe you don't know what to correct. And if you don't do anything, then that's inadequate. Standing up is great, but you got to know what you're standing up for, who you're standing up for, and effective ways to stand up, right? And who you're standing against. So all three components are important. Welcome to Harlem Liberation School, special edition, so to speak. Doing a live broadcast. This is completely impromptu. It just dawned on me that this is an important day for citizens of this country. Is probably the most important day because it's the day that celebrates this country's independence. I would imagine if we had an independent Black or new African nation, that the day we started it and commemorated it would be probably one of our most important holidays. That's almost saying you're celebrating your birthday, but it's the birthday of a nation. I want to get into that. I want to give a few quick announcements. Number one, July 16th, at 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, July 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have one of our most formidable activists, community organizers, and warriors on the scene, Brother Kwabena Rasuli. Many of you will know him from working with the likes of the late, great Bob Law, who recently passed. You may know him from the Clear the Airways project. He goes hard on radio stations and Black people and A&R reps and artists that are promoting foolish, and not just foolish, but very ugly, hyper-violent, inappropriately sexual lyrics in the music, because he's like, yo, that stuff, those waves, those frequencies, and that energy is permeating the brains of our youth. Youth for saying certain words and engaging in certain sexual acts way before they should, and all type of drugs and alcohol. And we should, but you also have to know that they're getting that either from your house and your example, or from what's happening in the community, and certainly through movies and TV shows and music. So we have to hold those people accountable. He's going to be on July 16th, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to discuss the troubling state of Black music. So it's something I think we need to stop talking about in private and have public conversation about it in a balanced way, and come up with things we can do. Having said that, I also want to say that I've started a new channel. This is specifically for Black men, for brothers, but we welcome sisters as well to come through. Check out our information. Hopefully, if you find it useful and relevant, share it with the Black men that you truly love and care about in your life, that they may be better, right? It's called The Real Wise OG. The Real Wise OG. It's on YouTube. I would love for you guys to come through, subscribe, check out the videos, leave your respectful comments, and share it if you find the information worthy. We're going through a number of different manhood rules that I believe will help, things that were imparted to me in my real life, things that elders taught me, brothers taught me, or I learned in my travels of life, that I think is good for our brothers. Check it out, family. Let's support each other, particularly support those who have a track record of supporting you. It's only right. It's called reciprocity. Having said that, family, I want to just type up something real quick to put on here so that we're clear on what we are talking about. Give me a second. Matter of fact, I'm not going to put that up. I'm going to get right into it. Today, I want to talk about lessons that we can learn from America's independence, but that relate to Black liberation. Now, you know that I do wear quite a few hats these days, but I am at the root. My foundational roles are as a teacher, an educator, and a community organizer, right? So, one of the roles I like to play is imparting information and also presenting it in a way where it's not over nobody's head, it's not underneath anyone's intelligence, but it's relevant, and not just giving information, but helping you to see the context and how this information applies to us. So I'd like to talk about, consider this a 4th of July broadcast from Harlem Liberation School. As you know, all across this country, the United States, people are celebrating. You know, we're going to have big fireworks shows and cookouts. Some people have parades and speeches about freedom. Now, today in particular, is going to be the normal 4th of July celebration on steroids, because today is the United States 250th birthday, right? So they're going all out. You're going to see all types of really fantastic, big productions going on. Here in Harlem, we have all these boats, ships from all over the world are going to be sailing up the Hudson River. There's a bunch of stuff going on. Fireworks, all types of stuff. Speeches probably by the president. And anyway, for our people, however, when we talk about the 4th of July and America's independence, this day raises a very important question for us. What exactly are we celebrating? Right now, one of our great orators, women's rights champions, and one of the greatest abolitionists, writers, and speakers I've ever read or heard, Brother Frederick Douglass gave a famous speech saying, "What to us is your 4th of July?" Beautiful. If you have never read that speech, go on internet and look up Frederick Douglass's 4th of July speech. It is absolutely riveting, considering that this was a man born in enslavement who essentially taught himself that he didn't go to no school, taught himself, fought his slave master, beat him up, ran away from Maryland, right, into freedom, and became one of our greatest orators and writers ever. One of them, bar none. It's important we understand that our ancestors were still enslaved when this Declaration of Independence was signed for this country. The same men who got together during those constitutional conventions and wrote the Declaration of Independence, the same men who declared that all men are created equal, owned living, breathing human beings, are our ancestors. So today, for many people, is about fireworks and hamburgers and celebrating that whole Eurocentric ideology and mythology. But for us, it goes a little deeper. This isn't about those celebratory things. For us, this is about history, and it's not about just condemning the history in these broad sweep statements. It's about studying history, not as some trivia game, not as, oh, did you know? No, studying our history or their history so that we can understand it, so that we can draw lessons from it that we can apply today. That's what I'm about, not knowledge for knowledge's sake. Knowledge is functional and liberatory if used properly. Because, you know, whether we agree with America's founding so-called fathers or not, one thing you can't deny, they accomplished something extraordinary. A small group of ragtag colonies defeated the most powerful empire on the earth at that time. It was said that the sun could never set on Britain, that's how wide, right, and deep its empire was. And every successful struggle leaves certain lessons. And I want us to ask a very important question. that's going to guide this whole discussion. What can Black people learn from America's fight for independence? And I don't want you to get too caught up in, oh, it's the white man's history. And this. Listen, history is history. It just so happens that we are an integral part of this history. It's important we learn this history. You're going to be celebrating, many of you going to all types of parties and events. You should at least know some of the history of why you're doing that and why other people are making such a big deal about this being the 250th birthday of the United States. Lessons. Number one, people tend to fight when they're economically exploited and mistreated in other ways. The Revolutionary War wasn't just about taxes, it was about economic exploitation, right? So for almost 170 years, Great Britain, the Empire of Britain, used its colonies for what? What is a colony for? Why do you have a colony? To enrich yourself, right? To use the people's labor, to export their raw materials, right? And to manufacture goods or products based on the materials you got from what? Your colony, based on the labor you got from who? The colonists in the colonies. Then you manufacture these finished products and then sell them all over the world. Now, in this case, those 13 colonies were then forced to buy those goods back from Britain. Think about that, the exploitation. You're digging up, you're cutting down the timber, the wood, you're digging up minerals, you're doing all these things. And then the people for whom you're doing that are taking that labor, taking your labor and the products that you've helped to pull from the earth. They're finishing it up and they're selling it back to you. It's crazy, right? The colonies were very much restricted. They could not buy products from other places. This is important. You know this. This is what a colony is for, to exploit them. So these 13 colonies need all types of goods. The understanding was you're our colony, and any good that you want, you got to buy from us. It's kind of like your kingpin in your local neighborhood is selling whatever legal drug, and they're telling all the addicts, yo, you better buy it. You can only buy this from us. Everybody that lives in 10 square blocks of here, you got to buy from us. You don't even have the freedom to buy your product from whom you want to buy it from. Exploitation, right? So their trade was heavily controlled by Britain. The manufacturing was just restricted. If they made anything, they had to be made for Britain. They didn't have much economic opportunity. And so these colonists are increasingly realizing that they're working to make another nation rich. Well, that's funny because our people know all about that. We were working to make the colonies and later the United States of America rich. Interesting how they got it for themselves, but didn't get that lesson for us. But anyway, the lesson is very clear. Political freedom means nothing without economic power. So yes, part of their grievances were political. They didn't have much representation in the government, right? They didn't have rights. They could be accused of things, and they didn't have a right to an attorney, and the trial could take forever, right? So yeah, it's the political stuff, but without that economic, the political doesn't have as much weight, as much meaning. People who don't control their businesses, their institutions, their labor, their resources, and increasingly now their technology will always be dependent on those that do. So freedom isn't just about having rights. Freedom is about having control, right? Listen to that lesson and think about yourself. How does that apply to Black people in the United States? Do we own our technology? Do we have our intellectual rights? Do we own and control our labor? Do we own the institutions, the schools, the hospitals, the banks, the credit unions, the laundromats, the cleaners, the grocery stores that are in our neighborhood? Think about how this applies to you. Because here's the thing. If white people in that time could understand that these atrocities gave them the right to fight back, and to demand independence. That means if it's good for them, guess what? It's good for you. Number 2 lesson we can learn from American independence. Those 13 colonies, which all of you history students know, became the first 13 states of this here United States, right? All of those colonies were underdogs, family. This is important. You know, we talk about this American Revolution almost as though victory was guaranteed to the colonies, and it wasn't. These colonies were badly outmatched. Britain had the world's greatest navy. It was the largest empire on the planet. It had a highly trained army. It had enormous wealth and enormous resources because it had other colonies. You know, Britain was in India, right? You know, Britain was in Ghana. Britain had colonies all over the world. The colonies, on the other hand, didn't really have weapons. They didn't really manufacture much of anything. They didn't have their own money system. They had to develop their own system. It was really bad for them. And they didn't even have a formal army. Most of the colonists that joined their military apparatus, these were people that were farmers and writers and, you know, merchants. These weren't, so it's like you have an army of regular citizens that never fought ever, right? At that time, that was a major disadvantage. Now, the presumption is most citizens don't have military experience until they join the military. But back then, this is a ragtag group of colonies with no real military experience, regular people going up against the largest, most powerful empire in the world. Many of them were poor and were starving. They didn't have proper boots and uniforms. Many of them died of starvation and exposure to the elements, like the famous story of how a lot of the soldiers died in Valley Forge because of that cruel cold winter, and they didn't even have proper clothing for that, right? So on paper, if you look at all the what they call today analytics, these colonies they didn't have any chance of winning this war. It's important you know that. If you were a gambling man or woman, you would have never bet money on the colonists. They had no business winning. Nobody in their right mind would have thought the colonies would win. And yet they fought anyway. They refused to surrender. What's the lesson? Oh, and they won. What's the lesson? Don't confuse the fact that you have limited resources. You don't have as many people as your opponent. You don't have as much money as your opponent. You don't have as much know-how or experience as your opponent. Don't confuse those things, those limited resources, with limited potential. History is replete with stories of underdogs, people who sometimes couldn't read and write, couldn't spell their own names, people who didn't have any money to speak of, any family pedigree, any military training, who defeated stronger opponents because they had great determination, better organization, and unwavering, here's my famous C word, commitment. Commitment changes the game. It always, when you commit to something, it gives you a superpower. It means that you say, I don't care what happens, what goes wrong, how I feel, this is getting done. I'm committed. That changes everything, right? Lesson 3. People sometimes in our political traditions believe in this, a myth, a false belief that everybody has to be on the same page. Now, let me tell you, never in history was a whole citizenry of a nation in agreement, family. And the same is true here in the American Revolution or the Revolutionary War. The colonists were divided. We don't talk about this. We act like everybody was with George Washington and Benjamin Franklin and Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. No. Some of the colonists were what we call patriots. They were down for the cause, fighting against Britain. They saw the British Empire as an adversary, their oppressor, and they were trying to overthrow them. But some of the colonists were cool with Britain, remained loyal to Britain, did not fight with the patriots against Britain. And they were called, if you teach, I know I was a social studies teacher, they were the loyalists. There's the patriots who fought for the home team against the enemy. There's the loyalists who was like, we don't have a problem with the oppressor. You know any black people like that? You're gonna leave that there for another time. And then there was a whole nother group of colonists who didn't choose any side, who remained neutral, who didn't want to get involved. They just waited to see who would win. Every liberation movement experiences this. Some people embrace the change. Some people defend the oppressive system. And some people refuse to choose sides. Look in your community, in your family, on your block, in the nation, and think about some of the black folk that say, yeah, I hear that, but I'm not doing it. I don't care who the president. I don't care what he did. Hey, not getting involved. Think about the people when you passing out flyers and trying to get them to do this and buy books and see this movie and join this movement and come to the rally, right? Who say, I ain't got no problem with Donald Trump. People you're trying to get registered to vote in a certain way or develop an independent black political party, and they say, man, I got no problem with the Democrats or Republicans. Those are the loyalists, you see? So every independence movement has the loyalists who have no problem with the oppressive adversary. They have the patriots who are willing to fight to the death against the adversary. And then you got a large number of people who they're not involved either way. They're not going to vote for Democrats, Republicans, your independent black political party. They ain't going to vote for the Parent Teacher Association. They don't vote for nothing. So understand that there is no perfect cocktail of liberation and revolution. They're always divided. When you look at the black and white movies of the civil rights movement, you look at documentaries of the abolitionist movement or the 19th century convention movement, understand that there were black people there who were not trying to fight against white folk who were oppressors. Think about all the people that ran away from enslavement. Do you know that for everybody that ran away, a whole lot of people stayed right on the plantation? Not necessarily because they didn't want to be free, but some didn't want to risk getting their feet or hands amputated, being beaten half to death, being killed, be in jail for the rest of their life, or being free but being separated from their relatives and their loved ones. So understand this dynamic exists everywhere. There is these people that say, oh, we all need to get together. Listen, that never has happened. And you know what? It doesn't necessarily need to happen. Just need a core group of people who are willing to do what it takes. And then other people in time tend to come along, right? So remember that. That's very important. Some people embrace the change. Some people defend the oppressive system. Some refuse to take sides. And too often we get caught up in waiting for everybody to agree with us. We wait indefinitely. We got to wait for money. We waiting for people to agree. We waiting for, no, family. It's always the visionaries, man, the pioneers. It's always the people who say, man, I don't care about how much money we got. I don't care about what we don't know. I don't care about how long it's going to take. It's always those people who set it off. And we have people like that in every era. We had people like that in the colonial days, the days of our enslavement in this country. We had people like that in the new Negro movement in the 20s with Garvey. We had people like that doing all the Pan-African conferences, going all the way up to Brother Malcolm's day. There was always people who said, I don't care about the odds. I don't care that we don't have millions of people with us. And we got millions of dollars coming. We're going to get it started. And one day, maybe not in our lifetime, it's gonna create the outcomes we want. It's always in my generation, as a younger man, in the 80s and 90s, it was people that was like, I don't want to hear that. I'm not waiting for some indefinite time. We're fighting right now. And that's the spirit I hope we get. History teaches this, by the way. These are not lessons I came up with. These are lessons you will get by reading history. And I mean, not just history in the United States, but read broadly. Learn about the Bolshevik Revolution, what the Irish Republican Army was dealing with. And you're going to see the same trends, the same things. Leadership isn't about waiting for unanimous support, family. Leadership is having a vision of a better world and organizing those people who are ready to move right now. And the rest will come later. We're not worried about them. We're going to go with the people who's ready right now. Lesson number 4. Everyone has a role to play. Not everyone in the American Revolution carried a rifle or musket, right? Some became soldiers. You had spies. Some raised money. We might call them development people today, or you might call them philanthropists. Some published newspapers and wrote newspaper articles and wrote pamphlets, right? Some delivered very riveting speeches. They were great orators. Some were local community organizers, organizing rallies and secret meetings and events. Some women, particularly women, served as nurses, right, for the soldiers. Some people transported supplies. Others wrote patriotic music that inspired the people, right? Everyone didn't do the same thing, but everybody had a task. There was something for everybody to do. This is a very important lesson for us. You know, people are funny sometimes. They think because something is their thing, that their thing is the only thing. Like, no, there's many. I've said this a billion times. There's many lanes. Now, our problem tends to be we try to do too much, and then that means that the quality of everything goes down. We're doing too much multitasking. So that may be an issue. But do understand, we have every human being in our race has different skills, different personality traits, different gifts, different preferences, and it makes them uniquely qualified to do a certain type of work. Now, that's not to say that we're hemmed in to do only one thing in our lives. You know, you have moguls that have their hands business-wise in 10 different types of products. What I'm saying, though, is you find that people who take time and say, what am I best at? Yeah, I could do this, and I could do this pretty good, but this I do extraordinarily well. I could do it in my sleep. I love doing it, and I always get a positive outcome and positive feedback from the community. Lock in on that thing, develop that thing, and wow, your contribution to the people can be phenomenal because you're not just doing something to do it, you're doing something that you have mastered. You have mastery of this, which means that not only do you do this at a high level, and you could probably teach other people to do it at a high level. Right? This is important. In this social media era, people are vying for attention, doing stuff to say they did it. No, or this person might be an excellent musician, but because what they do doesn't get all the attention, they shift to do something else. It's like they are right at that, but they're phenomenal over there. But because the social media climate or environment doesn't applaud that, you don't get rich. Another thing that we chase from that, people leave the things that they were put here to do and go chase something else. And I'm here to tell you, family, every movement needs teachers, entrepreneurs, artists of all types, engineers, researchers, writers, lawyers, people who create some type of media, community organizers, mentors or jegnas. A liberatory movement is not sustained by one person or one type of person. It's built by several different people faithfully playing different positions on the same team. And that's one of the reasons you're going to hear me, you hear me saying I'm building a championship team. You know, also understand that the people that will be on your team may not be in your village. You might need a mechanical engineer, and there's no mechanical engineer around you. So you may have to go to other places, right? Other cities and states, right? Or parts of your city to find the people you need for your team. You need specific talents, specific attributes, specific skill sets, specific knowledge base. Oftentimes, the leader isn't the person that can do everything. It's the person that's clear on everything that needs to be done, and then has the energy and the skill to go out and recruit the people they need. They say Brother Malcolm was excellent at that. and knowing these are the people I need for the organization of Afro-American unity. And he went out and would actually recruit personally certain people to be a part of it. That's what I'm doing right now as we speak. It's very important. Don't get caught up on this because you speak that everybody got to be a great speaker. And if they're not a great speaker, they're not important. That is complete foolishness. That's not the way that a revolutionary or independence movement runs. Lesson 5, even these founding fathers. Now, these founding fathers, whatever you think about them, they were certainly racist and certainly mostly sexist, certainly exploitative to our people. But do understand, they were brilliant. We need to be very clear. They were brilliant at what they did. Benjamin Franklin has created some of the most re-quoted quotes in history. Penny saved is a penny earned, all types of different things. Better done is better than, no, well done is better than well said. He has a million quotes. He's brilliant. He did like 10 different things. Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, all of these different people. They were brilliant. They may have been racist and some were slave owners, but don't try to negate the fact that they were brilliant in what they did. You can recognize somebody's talent without supporting their demonic practices, right? Now, here's something people overlook. Even these brilliant so-called founding fathers of the United States, guess what? They couldn't do it alone. They needed allies. The American colonies didn't defeat the British Empire by themselves. As great as they were, as much as they fought and adjusted, they eventually gained one of the most powerful allies in the world. A lot of people don't talk about this, but this is important. And this, for me, as a social studies teacher, this is something I constantly try to get across to students. They had help. There was one of these people I could do it all myself. They didn't need help. Who did they go to? France. But understand, France did not help the United States or these colonies because they wanted, necessarily them to enjoy freedom and democracy. France had a self-interest, and the wise colonists were able to communicate and speak to their self-interest. France had been one of Britain's greatest rivals for centuries, right? These two nations fought war after war after war over land and trade and colonies and global control, kind of like the United States and the Soviet Union did during the Cold War, right? Now, about 13 years before the American Revolution, Britain defeated France in the 7 Years' War. And when they defeated France in that 7 Years' War, they took almost all of France's territory in North America, right? This is just 13 years before the colonists fight their war against Britain. So France is tight. France is upset. Britain took most of their property. So they're a natural ally, right? So I want you to understand this. France wanted revenge against Britain. So when the colonies rebelled, the colonists sent ambassadors, if you will, to France, and they had talks. And they didn't have to talk for long because France saw an opportunity to get revenge and to weaken its greatest rival in the world. The enemy of Britain's enemy became France's friend. France supplied the colonies with money they didn't have, weapons they didn't have, ammunition, military advisors. Remember, I said they didn't know how to fight. But France brought the military advisors to teach them how to fight. And they also helped with thousands of soldiers. And they helped with a powerful navy. It wasn't as powerful as Britain, but it was powerful enough, right? So in 1781, the French fleet prevented British ships from rescuing General Cornwallis at Yorktown. This is important. And that victory trapped the British army and led to Britain's surrender. Most really strong historians on this colonial period believe that the American Revolution would have been impossible for the colonists to win without France's assistance. This is an important lesson, Black people. You know how we talk about we don't need no, we can't trust nobody and nobody loves us and we all we got. And I hear you. I hear you. And you probably right. Nevertheless, think about this. The colonies didn't abandon their mission. They didn't surrender their independence, but they were wise enough to know they were mismatched. They were out of their league. They were in deep waters. They knew they couldn't defeat the world's greatest empire by themselves with their limited resources and knowledge and experience. The lesson for us is this. You don't need everybody to support your cause, but you do need to, if you're wise and you're in it to win. This is important. You're in it to win. You have to identify individuals, organizations, and communities, bringing this up to now, whose interests align or overlap with yours, who might have beef or conflicts with some of the same people you got beef or conflict with. Strong movements don't isolate themselves. They build strategic alliances without compromising their principles. That isn't weakness, that's strategy. And I dare you to find an example of any modern war or even most historic ancient wars where there were no allies involved. That's just part of how that works. Don't be afraid to develop allies. Be smart and don't wait to the worst case scenario when your whole community is taking over. And no, you see, oh, it's a certain group of people who come in here in large numbers. It so happens that the same people that treated those people bad in their country of origin treated us bad, right? So we need to start building friendships with them and alliances with them. Yeah, we better. Yeah, that's how we got to think. Lesson 6, and this is important. It may be one of the greatest lessons and one of the most inspiring. History changes. Tables turn, family, in time. So in 1776, Britain was unstoppable, largest, most powerful empire in the world. Nobody had more territory around the globe than Britain did. And America almost didn't even exist. They were like nothing compared to Britain. Now, let's look today. The tables have turned. The United States in 2026 is one of the wealthiest and most powerful nations in the world and in the history of the world. Britain is still important. Britain is now an ally of the United States. Britain went from being the oppressor and mother country to the United States to now being an ally of the United States, and it no longer dominates the world as it once did. In fact, America, or the United States to be more specific, is much wealthier, has much greater military power than Britain does. The lesson is that tables turn, empires rise, and empires fall. This is a fact. New powers, when empires fall, new powers come into play, right? And no nation's position lasts forever. And this means that we should never trick ourselves into believing that our present condition is permanent. That just because our health statistics and our economic statistics, mortality statistics, educational attainment statistics, financial asset owning statistics are on the bottom today, that don't mean it's going to be that way forever, family. History is moving, and also history favors those who organize for themselves. It favors those who own their own institutions, who own their own or create their own schools, who write their own curriculums, who write movies and tell stories about themselves from their perspective, who raise their own money, who are prepared to defend themselves. History rewards those people. And remember, tables turn. It's just like, just because somebody you see now ain't this, that don't mean that 10 years from now, that person might be a mogul. The person you teasing and sleeping on today, you never know what happens in the future if they're doing the work. That's very important. So let me just wrap this up. What should Black people learn from America's independence? Since this is Independence Day and this is going to be a big talk about their 250th birthday, Harlem Liberation School wants to use it as a teaching point. First of all, it says that people have a right to resist and will always resist being subjugated politically and economically. 2, underdogs can defeat giants. 3, no independence movement begins or ends with complete unity. It does not exist ever. There will always be internal divisions, and we talked about that. 4th, every person has a role to play. It's up to the wise, insightful, strategic leadership to be able to see beauty and ability in people and be able to know just because somebody's beautiful and has ability don't mean that that's what you need on your team. So you have to figure out, well, what do we need? What are our unique needs? When a president takes office, he or she is thinking about what people do I need for what I'm trying to do. And they have cabinet members or experts in different fields that meet those needs, right? So every person has a role to play. I'm not for this only people that speak well and write well are important. I'm not for this everybody has to be a politician. I don't agree with this idea. Everybody should be intellectual. I definitely don't agree with that. Everybody's not going to be an intellectual. And intellectuals are important, but they're not more important than musicians, artists, actors, right? With the right consciousness and doing the right type of work. 5th, we need strategic alliances. It is very disingenuous and dangerous, irresponsible to teach our people that, oh, all Black people need is Black people to. No, that's not how it works, family. You know, that's not how that works. Just study history. It's telling you. And listen, alliances don't have to be permanent. Sometimes people fight together around the same cause against the same enemy. And then after they win, the alliance is gone. United States and Soviet Union were best friends. They fought against with Britain against the Axis forces in Germany and Japan and Italy, right? And then as soon as the Allied forces won World War II, America and Soviet Union are now the two great superpowers, and now they're enemies. You see, don't go by what people tell you. Study the history. It is full of answers for you. In the last lesson we said, history can change. Don't think because Black people ain't where they should be and everybody's making fun of us, stealing all our stuff and getting away with it, saying they did it, calling us ugly names, getting all our consumer dollars and not employing us, taking over our neighborhoods. Don't think it will always be that way. If we organize and we learn lessons and we do what needs to be done, those things can change. Nothing lasts forever. So for instance, back in the day, Harlem was all white, Jewish and Italians. And then Harlem became almost 99% Black. And now Harlem may be 40% Black. Things never stay the same. So you have to anticipate change and don't be afraid of change. But I'm going to tell you this. The greatest irony of today is this. The descendants of the people who fought for their independence understood that freedom required organization, discipline, building institutions, economic development, sacrifice, and a clear vision for the future. Unfortunately, they didn't afford us that same consideration and empathy. But regardless of what they were doing and their reasons, these are some very important 6 lessons we can learn. So as you eating the hot dogs and doing the firework thing and hanging out with your loved ones, that's all good. Remember, there's a lesson in everything, and we can learn a lot from studying the history of the United States of America's struggle for independence. And really, family, that's all I got for you. So I want to thank you for that. I'm going to see, I'm running my mouth. I was kind of glancing at my notes. I see the Queen is saying Wakusa to the family. God knows how long ago she put that out. I haven't looked at sorry to the Queen for that. Put that up a while ago. I want to thank her for that. I see we got some people here. I want to thank you. Thank y'all for joining us. But family, don't get too emotionally attached to things. That's where the emotions will throw you off. Emotions can influence you, but they should never lead. Emotions can be a backseat driver or a passenger, but they can't be the driver of the vehicle. You'll crash and miss your turn every time. Logic has to lead, right? So I know a lot of us upset with what these people did to us and how they celebrate in their nation, and we don't really have one. But don't get caught up in that. Get caught up in what can we learn from them? How did they go from being 13 colonies? They couldn't even, these people first came here and took the Native Americans' land. Most of them didn't even know how to farm. Most of them died in those first few winters. They were so bad off, family, that they would boil their belts and their shoes. I'm telling you, to eat them. They were eating rats. They couldn't survive. So how did they go from that to having the largest, most powerful, and wealthiest nation on the planet? That's what you want to study. That's what you want to focus in on so that you can have success. Not get so comfortable. Well, did you know so-and-so had slaves? Yeah, we know that. We ain't here to, we ain't having no parade for them, but study them because there's a lesson. How did they go from these colonies with no money, couldn't shoot a rifle to save their life, didn't know how to farm at first, to where it is today? Now, of course, we know one of the answers is they took a lot of people's stuff. They went and exploited a lot of people. We know that. I'm not talking about that lesson. I'm talking about some of the other lessons. They built alliances. There's a lot of other things we can learn. Family, enjoy your day. I treat every day the same. I treat every day like it's a holiday. Because for me, every day is a holiday. Every day I wake up and breathe is a great day. I don't care if it's a torrential storm, rain. I don't care if it's a monsoon, a hurricane, or earthquake. I'm alive. I have a few people on the planet that love me, whom I love back. Man, ain't no better day than that. That's a beautiful day. I feel blessed. I'm grateful to be part of an institution that's providing very relevant and important information for our people. I get emails and texts and all the time from people that say, hey, we love what you're doing and can work together and all these things. And there'd be no us if there were no you. Love y'all right back. And if you have any suggestions for how we can improve, one thing I like to do at some point, family, I like to have some correspondence. I put this call out years ago. Nobody answered it. Nobody answered my call. So I started something all by myself called Black Liberation University, a channel. I would like some correspondence. I like people in Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia and Delaware and Virginia and California and throughout the country that give us news and views that's going on their particular locale, just like the white man does with his news. He got ABC, but he got ABC in every city and state. And they coordinate and work together. I'd love to have a situation like that. We can get information out quickly. We can inform our people about important events. If you're down with something like that, being part of a team like that, and also you have suggestions and ideas for Harlem Liberation School, please hit us up, family, at harlemlschool@gmail.com. If you forget that, you can go right to our description of this channel and you'll see the email, harlemlschool@gmail.com. Give me some suggestions. If you're willing to help out, you have a broadcast programming ideas, you're a person that deals with psychology, or you deal with sociology, or you're a scholar, you're a storyteller, whatever you do that relates to Black people, though, has to relate to us. We're interested in knowing about it. And maybe we can have some type of put you into a monthly programming schedule. We already got my brother Bomani Shakur. We do a political prisoner report. We already got my brother Haru Ofari Atta. We do a health-based broadcast. I would love to build this platform out. I'd like to get some more activists and community organizers in different parts of the country and the world telling us about their particular movements, the things they've achieved, their challenges, their tactics, and support they need. So help us, family. Help us help you. Please hit us up. HarlemLSchool@gmail.com. Subscribe to the channel, share the video, and really try to help us build this out. Support those who support you. With that said, family, Wukusu, peace, Black Power. Enjoy not just today, because they call it a holiday. Enjoy every day of your life. Treat it like a special day, because it is. It is a special day. Nell My Hand says, thank you, Brother Tyehimba. Thank you, Nell My Hand, 4406. Thank you. Family, we are not all we got. I used to say that. I had to think about that. We have people all over this planet that rock with us, that see our pain, that see our beauty, and that are prepared to join us in whatever we have to do. And we also have, I know we have atheists in the building. I'm not hating on y'all, but we have a mighty, mighty, mighty force, family, that is greater than any nuclear weapon, any warmongering nation, any white supremacist ideology, that we can also be in tune with, that will help us listen to that voice when we turn all the noise off. See, we got to stop running our mouths, stop being so busy. Settle in, lock in, close your eyes, listen. A lot of answers come from that. But we are connected to that supreme force, and we can tap into that as well. Family, with that said, thank you. Peace and Black Power. Have a beautiful day. Peace.